If you're watching this video, that means that you already know what happened with the United States election. You already know that Donald Trump has basically all but won in everywhere as of right now. And you're probably coming over to my channel to figure out what I think about all that. And you're also probably asking yourself, why am I making this video instead of one of my video essays that I said I was going to do? And, well, there's a couple reasons that I haven't done that yet. And the main one is that I'm not done writing it. I'm about 8 pages into what's looking to be a 45 to 70 page script. So there's that. But at time of recording, Trump has 267 electoral votes. He currently has 69 million votes, with Harris having 64 million votes. And, well, we kind of know where this is probably going to go. Over on this channel, I don't need to explain to you all what a Trump presidency is going to look at. I've done videos on Project 2025. You already know what a Trump presidency is going to look like. I've also done plenty of content on this channel in the past about him. You know kind of where we're going. So what is the point of this video? Well, originally, I wanted this to be a rant, to angry me getting mad at all of you who dared to vote for Donald Trump, but let's be honest, that's kind of useless right now. Not just because I can't undo any of the votes, but also it's not actually every Trump voter's fault. It's our system's fault. We have a broken voting system. We have a broken electoral college system. And these systems are held up in a way to keep us pretending like there's an actual fight to be had here. Harris would win if we had a better electoral college system, and Harris would win if we had more people who were confident enough in our voting systems to participate in them. As of right now, it looks like 120 million people in the United States voted, which is fine, but it's not even half of the people who should have voted. We should have about 250 million minimum people in the United States who are of voting age. So why aren't they participating? There's also another part of this system that we're led to believe, and that is that our participation in democracy begins and ends at the voting booth. Donald Trump has won, therefore that's the end of things for the next 4 years, and, well, that's not really the case. I want to go ahead and let you guys know that this is actually just the beginning. While under a Democratic president, we would have a bulwark for human rights. Historically, it has been easier for the left to organize when someone like Trump is a president. Historically, we've been able to get a lot done when someone like Trump is in office. This is because the one thing that the left historically fails to do is have a good enemy to be united against. We tend to fight for our own unique moral systems, and those can be veganism or a brand of religiosity or any number of things. And we find ways to tear each other down based on those merits, while the Republican Party, as an example, but really any conservative or fascist-leaning unit, watches us do so. We have leftists who hate liberals, liberals who hate communists, and we have communists who hate socialists, and all of us ideally should be fighting the exact same fight, but instead we end up fighting each other, saying that we're the true representation of some idea of democracy. This isn't healthy for us, you, or really our own political systems. For those of us who are on the left right now, what really should we be doing? Well, the very first thing we should be doing is strategizing for the next election. That's the baseline. That is the bare minimum. We should be trying to do that. But the next thing we should be doing on the left is consolidating our power. And I'm not meaning in a way where we create some violent anti-coup that we can use to reverse January 6th this thing. No, what I mean is Do the thing we've been failing to do for the past 20 years. Strengthen unions. Try to get people together and operating as a community more. Try to fight against urbanization. Try to fight against anything that threatens to atomize us as people. Those are our next steps right now. I made a somewhat truncated version of this argument on my Magic the Gathering channel, of all places, because I figured that even that community needed to hear some of the things that I wanted to say. But let's talk about the steps that you personally, as a viewer, should be taking right now. Right now, you should be figuring out who around you that you trust. Not figure out who you can trust. No, develop bonds with people around you and learn to trust them. Get friends around you who have your best ideas at heart, who have your best goals at heart, who want you as an individual to prosper. Find friends who want that and rally around them. Fight for them the way that they fight for you. Advocate for them the way that they advocate for you. You can do this by going to your local city council meetings whenever those are happening. You can do this by going to your board of education meetings whenever those are happening. You can do this by talking to your representatives. Figure out where their offices are. Go to your capital. Talk to your reps. Go and advocate for yourself, advocate for your friends. Get your friends together. After you've figured out who you trust, get your friends together to go to your local capital buildings, your local government buildings, and start talking to the people who actually shape the laws around you. And don't talk as an individual, talk as a group. Bring person after person after person after person to talk to the people who actually shape the lives of you and the people around you because of their policies. They also, in Trump's ideal America, the quote states' rights America, those local politicians now have even more power over your life. You should go advocate for yourself to them. Go to your local capital. For me, that's in Atlanta. You go there and you talk to them. When a bill is coming by, educate yourself on the bills. Most bills that are proposed are put on your United States Gov website. For me, it's georgia.gov, and I can go there and I can look at whichever bills are being passed, and I can see what things do or do not concern me. Educate yourself on this stuff. That's your next step. After you've figured out who you can trust and who you can go talk to your politicians with, you need to be getting you and your friends together to study this shit. You alone cannot keep track of every bill that comes in. A senator can't either. They have a team so that they can keep track of this. So you and your friends need to start becoming a team that bring things to each other so that you know what you can do in the future. You know which bills to talk to your local representatives, your local senators about, and try to get them to vote one way or another or abstain from voting in certain bills. Educate yourself. That's your step 2. Now, why am I saying this whole come together with your friends thing? And, oh, by the way, this includes your friends who are conservative. For y'all who are on the left, this is your conservative friends. For you who are conservative, you need to talk to your left-leaning friends. Why? Here's an example. Chile, in the 70s and the 80s, the dictatorship there tried to atomize people, get them into tiny nodes of trust so that everybody was an island unto themselves. A lot like we ended up after COVID. When you get a bunch of people as an island unto themselves, they don't trust the people around them. They don't know how to talk about politics to the people around them. They don't know how to advocate for themselves to the people around them. And then they get afraid of them. You get conservative people afraid of trans people, afraid of gay people, afraid of being seen as any of those things. Being seen as anything other than a white Christian dude, right? You get people who are afraid of the other instead of embracing the other and recognizing that they are their brothers in arms. Fascists like atomization. They like when people are truncated into units. They like separating people so that it feels like each of you is an individual island, individually voting, and, oh, if democracy gets lost somewhere along the way, well, at least we tried, everybody. Trump has effectively won. Get some friends of yours to touch base with, and touch base with them regularly. Use that to explore your own thinking about how you feel about Being gay, being trans, being black, being white, being conservative, being liberal, all these things. You're going to find that you and the people around you probably have a whole lot more in common. And you've basically been told that you have a lot against each other. Leftists are told to advocate for unions, but right-wing people participate in unions more often than not, especially construction unions. Weird juxtaposition there. Maybe more left-leaning people need to be getting into these trades, and more right-leaning people need to be advocating for the unions, keeping them afloat financially. Instead, we end up voting against each other. Weird world, right? The next important thing you can do right now is recognize what you do and don't have control over. Donald Trump is going to be president, it looks like. You don't have control over that. You don't have the ability to change that. So trying to think of all the myriad ways and strategies that you could have fixed that is not going to help you, unless you are going to use them to prevent, say, a J.D. Vance presidency in the coming years. Unless that is your goal, unless your goal is for the next 4 years down the road, focusing on all the ways in which you failed here is not going to help you. It's time to let this part go. Don't blame yourself for it. Don't blame your neighbors for it. Blaming your neighbors for it is going to cause that atomization to happen just as quickly. And guess what? There's two scenarios a Republican loves. One, the scenario where more people are voting for them, and two, the scenario where a bunch of people feel disenfranchised. In both scenarios, they win. Let's truncate one of those scenarios out of the realm of possibility. We already know some people are going to vote for him anyway. We can't handle that one, so let's just handle this one. Let's get more of ourselves, recognizing that we should be talking to one another, and we can let go of this. Holding on to this is not going to help you unless your plan is to use this current political landscape, this current thing that has happened, as a fire to start a union, or advocate harder for yours, or try to participate in yours more, or try to protect yours, or try to establish ones outside of where you already work, getting friends to start unions in their workplaces. That's a way that you can start consolidating power. You can start working on building up a small PAC, an advocacy organization for local politics. Study up on the ways that you can legally engage in local politics when you are a PAC, when you are doing these things. Get together and get more people to be politically involved. But you can only do that if you are using this as a galvanization time, as a flame under yourself to go and do the work. Otherwise, you're just holding a grudge and you're just beating yourself up. Use it as a fire, or let the fucking embers burn. Those are your only options. Otherwise, you're just killing yourself with grief. You should also probably use this time to funnel your time into something that matters. So, let's talk about what those things are. Being angsty online does not matter. Doing some symbolic action, something that lets you know that, oh, I marched a few people in front of a building, or, oh, I made a big public statement. These are not things that matter. Not really. These are things that make you feel like you're doing something that matters. But that's not really consolidating power. That's not really getting involved. That is doing something that makes you feel better. We like to say that this is raising awareness a lot of the time. But in reality, it doesn't always do that. In reality, a lot of times the reason that we engage in this kind of political slacktivism, especially online, where we just yell about things on the internet, is to make ourselves feel better. Stop doing that. If you're thinking about making an inflammatory post to try to trigger a bunch of conservatives or liberals, now's maybe not the time to do that. It was never really the time to do that. That doesn't work. That doesn't do anything. All it does is it leads to the thing I talked about previously, where we get isolated from one another, where we are no longer galvanized towards a cause of protecting one another. And that's the big thing. That should be what we are worried about. Protecting one another. Trying to advocate for each other's human rights. Women's rights to their own bodies, trans people's rights to their own medication and choices, gay people's rights to stay married, which thankfully Obergefell seems to have been codified, so it's not like we're going to be losing that one anytime soon. It's time to get to know your neighbors. That's something that is a worthwhile thing to do. It's time to find a hobby that you can use to regenerate yourself, to revitalize yourself, to keep yourself happy, not to escape the real world, but to enhance the way that you engage in it. Magic the Gathering as an example. I talk about it a whole lot as a great way to engage in mental health. Why? Because it is a medium, it is a vehicle by which you meet other people, by which you touch grass, by which you engage in other human beings' company. And in that environment, you will learn more about the people around you. You'll learn more about their hopes, their fears, their dreams, their concerns. You'll learn more about all of that if you are with your friends. Find things to do with your friends together. And while you're there, talk about the things that are important to you. The time to not bring politics up is fucking over. The time to talk about your human rights in front of your friends, that's the thing that is important now. The time to say, no, I want to advocate for my own body in case a rape happens and you want to be able to terminate a pregnancy you didn't consent to. You want to be able to marry who you care about. You want to be able to mark your gender on an identification card. You want to be able to afford medication that prevents you from engaging in suicidal behavior and ideation. You want these things. You need these things, and your friends should want you to live your best life. Maybe start that conversation off with, do you want me to be happy? Do you want me to live my best life? Do you want me to be a stable person? These are the things I need to be stable. Will you help me fight for those things? Will you help me fight on behalf of me? What you'll find is people who advocate against the things that you need have often been propagandized into it. That doesn't make them your enemy. That makes them a potential ally who's just been, for lack of a better word, brainwashed into thinking that they are not your friend. The time to come together and do shit, like unionize and get yourselves politically involved, talking to your local politicians, becoming a local politician. This is the time to do that. This is the time to do that. This is not the time to wallow in, oh, Trump won. This is not the time to go online and be an angsty son of a bitch. This is the time to go to your friend and say, hey, I'm scared and here's why. If we opened more conversations up like that, we'd have far more friends who want to advocate for us and far fewer enemies that think that we're some sort of weird other. Don't censor yourself. Don't not come out of the closet around your friends because you're worried that they may think a weird thing about you being gay. No, the time to talk to them about it is now. The time to go, hey, by the way, I'm scared about what the reality of the next 4 years is because I'm gay, and here's why. And I just want to know that you'll be in my corner if push comes to shove. Don't censor yourself. It's really easy to do that for our own personal safety, but honestly, at this point, we need to not do that because we need to be able to come together. And the only way we can do that is if we are, by some degree, transparent with one another. So, figure out who your friends are and get them close to you. Educate yourselves on local politics and what you can do right now. Educate yourself on bills that are coming up that you need to advocate against in your lobbying sessions. Figure out what things are going to affect you and your jobs. Get those friends together if you're in the same workplace and start learning how to unionize. Let go of anything you cannot control and focus only on the things you can control. And if you're engaging in an activity that you think is just solely for some quick thrills or quick laughs, but comes at a bunch of other people's expense, maybe it's time to abandon that particular thing and again, focus on the things that matter, which are these other things. Getting your friends together, figuring out who they are coming close with one another, being vulnerable with one another, learning with one another, learning how to advocate with one another. If you do these things, and then you do not censor yourself in the process of doing these things so you can properly advocate for yourself, you will be a much more effective person politically. You will be a much more effective person at convincing your friends around you that you have not only your best interest at heart, but their best interest at heart. You're going to find people who are going to grandstand against you here. The best thing to do is listen to that grandstand. Figure out why they have the position that they are doing. You may be right, and they may be wrong. But telling somebody the myriad ways that they're wrong and you're right has never truly convinced anybody. Listening, being empathetic, and being a friend does a lot more. We are very emotionally driven creatures, and we need to start remembering that when we start advocating for one another. Finally, I know that it's really, really easy to use the threat of a new Trump presidency as an argument for giving up, for not engaging in activism, not engaging anywhere because you are so worried about the current state of United States politics because it is fucked. That is a mistake. Historically, we get more done when there is a thing galvanizing us. And right now, there is a thing in Washington that can galvanize us to work together, to unionize, to educate ourselves, to get involved politically, to be vulnerable with one another, to focus on the shit that matters, and to not censor ourselves. Now's the time to do all that. Now is the time to use this moment as a fire, as opposed to using this moment as a reason to crawl under a desk and cry. And I know some of you want to do that, and you've got time to do it. But as soon as you are around your friends, once you are done being vulnerable to them, it is time to get shit done. It is time to unionize. It is time to make sure that various industries that you are involved in have the conversations of a workers' protection union that is in effect now. Because Elon Musk is going to be doing everything in his power to make sure that that can't happen. And Trump's in his pocket. It's time to figure out who your friends are. It's time to get educated. It's time to come together and get involved in politics as opposed to sitting back and pretending that our involvement in politics begins and ends at the fucking poll booth. It never has, and it never will. You don't get to escape politics. You can pretend you don't care about it, but reality is it cares about you and it affects everything in your damn life. It's time to act like that's the case. Finally, if you are worried about the local political sphere and how it affects you, please come to my Discord. It is a safe place for you. It is a place where you can be yourself, whether you're gay, trans, what have you, don't care. That is a place where, with very few exceptions, you are welcome. You're welcome to come play WoW with me on Wild Growth. You're welcome to come play Magic with me over on the server. You are welcome to come and hang out in my Twitch streams when I start those back up again. You are welcome to come hang out wherever you want to around me digitally as I'm at. And if I happen to be outside in a place and you happen to see me and you know who I am from my channel, you can introduce yourself. You have my permission to do so if it will help you, if knowing that there's a kindred spirit out there is something that you need. Links are in the description. You can support me on Patreon, all that other fun shit. Don't care. Everything, I can't lie and say everything's going to be okay. But I can say that together we can make damn sure that it doesn't get worse, and we might even be able to make it better. We have an opportunity here. Let's not fucking lose it. That said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to keep working on that first video essay, but I know if I just ignored what just happened politically, that would be stupid. Insert end of video tagline here.